Inside the White House, President Trump announcing that his staff secretary, conservative lawyer Will Scharf, will soon take over as White House counsel. He'll replace a man by the name of David Warrington. You've surely seen Scharf's face before. He's a regular presence in the Oval, the guy often reading loud, handing President Trump executive orders for him to sign. And he's been in the headlines recently, too. Scharf also serves as chair of the National Capital Planning Commission that the president credits with securing approval for that $400 million ballroom project. That is, before a U.S. appeals court blocked it last week. We want to bring into the conversation New York Times correspondent Maggie Haberman. She, of course, is the co-author of the bestseller Regime Change Inside the Imperial Presidency of Donald Trump. Maggie, it's been a quiet month for you, so I appreciate you finding time to talk to me right here as we get started. What do you make of Will Scharf's appointment to White House counsel? He, like many others, is an ultimate loyalist.
He is, but he also has some limits, Peter, on what he will do. One of the things we wrote about in the book, Jonathan and I did, is two issues where Will Scharf drew a line over the course of the last year and a half, where he got concerned about what could entangle this administration in legal fights that they might not be prepared for. One was about when to invoke the Insurrection Act, which is, a loaded weapon on the shelf, as is the idea of suspending habeas corpus rights for undocumented migrants. The right to due process under habeas corpus is an idea that predates the Magna Carta. It's enshrined in the Constitution. The Supreme Court has repeatedly upheld it very broadly. There was an episode that we wrote about where the president and Stephen Miller were really aggressively discussing possibly just broadly suspending these rights. But in general, Will Scharf is, as you say, he is somebody who generally believes in pretty expansive executive power. He was part of the president's team that fought for the immunity ruling at the Supreme Court, which has allowed President Trump, in President Trump's mind, to plow through all kinds of limits this term. President Trump has been very focused on people who will get him to a yes, lawyers who will get him to a yes. He is also very hard on his White House counsels, and so we will see what happens here.
Another one of the president's former personal lawyers, as we witnessed, just got a promotion this week. Of course, that's Todd Blanche, now becoming the Attorney General of the United States. Under Blanche, the DOJ has already gone after former FBI Director James Comey, Letitia James in New York State, attempted to create this so-called anti-weaponization fund, the tax audit immunity deal for Trump and his family members. Maggie, does this further embolden the president right now? Even the senators who he had maligned, Cornyn, Tillis, Cassidy, ultimately they all went along with Blanche.
It's pretty remarkable, Peter, because President Trump has created this set of circumstances where basically heads he wins, tails everybody else loses. The argument that you heard Bill Cassidy use on the Senate floor as to why he was voting for Blanche, you listen to it and he's going over it and you would expect him to end that speech with, and this is why I'm voting against him.
Correct.
But then it's, I'm voting for him because whoever comes next could be worse. So basically, the president has set up a scenario where you choose my choice, who you might think is bad, but look how much worse this could be. And that is generally how he has won. Look, it's not a surprise to see senators who are Republicans going along with the president's nominees. They generally have. I mean, this White House has made a point of making cases of senators who have not supported the president's choices. Witness Joni Ernst in Iowa. But in this case, if any of these senators who had said that they were very concerned about the anti-weaponization fund and what the president's children could, be immune from in terms of tax liability or investigations going backwards, this does not stop that. So it raises real questions again about what oversight actually looks like in this term.
Maggie, what struck me is the president in a recent interview sort of acknowledged that heads he wins, tails the other guys lose scenario you're talking about. He said Americans are angry with Republicans, but they're not angry with him right now. Clearly, as I've witnessed in the briefing room and in conversations with those there, the president's information stream doesn't get a lot of scrutiny. He has the human printer who is with him to show him a lot of the positive things about him being said. So what does he get in terms of the real picture? Does he have any sense of how the American public, according to all polls right now, is souring on him?
He has been told this, Peter, in our understanding and our reporting, what his own pollsters have shown repeatedly month over month, and we have some of these private polls in our book, where it's very clear that the public is not happy with where the party is, where President Trump's priorities are personally, and with how people's own economic situations are. And he continues to say, not just in public, but in private, it's not that bad. It's going to get better. Everything is going to be okay. He has this history of willing these things into existence, but it's a little hard to do when grocery prices are going up and gas is over $4 again, and there's really no end in sight in terms of what's happening in Iran. So does he know that things are bad? He has certainly been told, but does he care? Which is, I think, the question that you're getting to. He sort of said it, right? It's, we, again, wrote about this in the book. He had a line last year about how he was proud, that was the word, that Republican candidates don't do as well when he is not on the ballot. And that's lovely, but it is going to matter to his remaining 2 years if the House flips and possibly the Senate, and by just how much.
Let me ask you about what we woke up to this morning. The president saying that he is now low-keying it as it relates to Iran. This is very different than what we've heard from him over the course of the last several weeks, even months, where he had these big sort of brash and bombastic warnings against Iran. Now it appears he's looking to focus on more of the economic pressure for that country. But low-keying it, I mean, you and I have covered this guy for a long time. That did not sound like Trump language. What did you make when you heard that?
I made of it that it affirms everything that we have all been saying, Peter, that you all have been saying on this network, that we have been reporting, that he has a couple of pretty bad options of his own making in this conflict where munitions are depleted by, levels we don't quite know exactly what, but there are specifics that we have heard and that we have reported at the Times that are not encouraging, that manufacturing is not ramping up quickly, and the economic pressure they've tried so far hasn't worked. Low-keying it, yes, this is opposite what he normally tries to do, but considering that the threats haven't worked, now saying, I'm not really going to threaten you, I don't know exactly what the desire is to get from Iran here, but Again, they have been pressuring them economically, and it has done nothing.
But like low-keying it is language that your kids and my kids might use, but I hadn't heard that from the president. That was
I've definitely never heard it from the president before, but also he continues to sort of stage direct everything that's happening here. And
understood. Just to be clear that your reporting matches mine on this one here. Let me ask you, the president, as we have witnessed, has been so heavily focused, especially 2.0, on how he is remembered. These golden statues in parts of the district. He now has this massive, what he calls a military complex, with the ballroom that he's trying to build right now. Americans have consistently said that the president's priorities are out of whack with their right now. So the president's legacy is clearly not aligned with what Americans are looking for. Is that just still the driver? Is that where you see this going as he looks to conclude this 2.5 years ahead of him?
I think it's hard to say what he is going to end up focusing on over the next 2 years if he cannot get his numbers up. But what does he care about for himself personally? I mean, again, this is one of the things Jonathan and I write about in the book. He is looking toward legacy, but what he considers to be legacy, Peter, is different than what a lot of presidents do. A lot of presidents look at, we will have some piece of enduring legislation, something durable that will continue, that the other party cannot undo if they come in. They've passed really one major piece of legislation. They may attempt other things going forward. He cares about these physical structures that his name can't easily be removed from as it was before, and that is about him. That is less about the public. And I just do want to add one note on the ballroom, which, as you said, he's calling a military center or whatever. That's another case of heads he wins, tails you lose, because this was a ballroom, and now he is calling it